Boom, stop. In episode 100, I addressed the question of masculinity. What's the problem with modern academic research on masculinity? Masculinity for the intelligent man. I'm David Tian, Ph.D., and this is Man Up! Hi, I'm David Tian, Ph.D., and for the past 10 years, I've been helping tens of thousands of people in over 87 countries achieve success in dating and relationships. And welcome to episode 100 of Man Up, Masculinity for the Intelligent Man. I am in Bangkok. I figured out how to film at night so you get the nice night view instead of just my shades down. Minimal lighting everywhere else in the suite, but you can see the background a bit until they turn off those lights behind me. But holding on still. So this is episode 100, and I'm finally talking about the topic of masculinity specifically. So this was originally an exploration into the concept and the area of masculinity, but I've been getting inundated, just flooded with questions about what masculinity means, how to have it more, how to have more of it, and so on. And I've been an active researcher in this area for several years already, and active in looking into the academic research on this topic. And there's very little of good quality. I've been disappointed to find. That there's very little of good quality. There's a lot of crap out there on the internet, on various websites, but even more disappointingly, there's a lot of crap in books. There's basically two different types of dominant approaches to the question of masculinity in academia, as far as I can tell, in books that are assigned in university classes and so on, books and articles, and speeches, on the internet. On the one hand, there is, so what I'm going to be doing in this video is answering the question of what masculinity is in two parts, because I know it's going to go way over time, and I want to keep these under 8 minutes. So I'm going to split it up into two parts. And in the first part, I'll be just like discussing what the problem is. In the second part, I'll go into more of, or exploring, a solution, or a better way of looking at it. So, on the one hand, the current approaches are, on the one hand, the sort of new age approach, which is, I guess it appeals to a certain type of person, certain type of guy, but it doesn't appeal to an engineering type of mind, doesn't appeal to a scientific type of mind, and there's a lot of appeal to mythology, and like personally, it doesn't really resonate with me. Like I get a lot of bullshit out of that. Like it seems like there's no authority to it. There's no it's just a pure appeal to authority. Like it's just like, hey, isn't this a nice story? Isn't this the way it is? There you go, accept it, right? Like there's no proof, there's no evidence, there's not even any real philosophical argument for it. So those are a lot of the works that have come up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And if you're familiar with it, there's a lot that are taught more in a religious studies context than a science context. So there's basically no science to it. It's just mythologies, rites of passage, a little tiny bit of anthropology, but nothing empirically sound, really, like empirically rigorous. I'm sorry. So that's one approach. It seems like that's the old approach, right? That's the sort of Chicago Divinity School approach. And then there's another approach. So there's some value in it, I gotta say. So we're not just gonna throw it out. There's some value in it, but it's not ideal, and it's not there isn't much guidance there. Also, there's a lot of bullshit mixed in with some truth. And then on the other hand, there is a lot of, there's a big, on the other hand, there is like the debate in male studies versus masculinity studies, and it's cloaked in academies, so it sounds more sophisticated. But the problem is this, that they don't have the people writing it don't have a very philosophical mind. So what I mean by that is, one of the areas that they have, one of the fallacies that they're engaging in, knowingly or not, is the blurring of the normative descriptive distinction. So in other words, they'll take an example of, hey, there's this homosexual man. He's male, he's a man, he's being masculine. They're using that word masculine in just like take any random male, he lives this way. We have to fit his lifestyle into our concept of masculine. I get that. I totally get that. You want to be inclusive. You want to. You don't want to like ignore some area of humanity. Like you want to say yes, acknowledge the fact that they're human and that they're male. They have a penis, and so they have a right to live their lifestyle the way they want, and they're living it in this particular way. Great. So that's wonderful. However, that's a descriptive use of masculinity if you're going to use it in that way. So in other words, masculinity just becomes whatever any male, however any male decides to live his life and whatever values he has. So he could be a homosexual male and he could wear women's clothing and or he enjoys playing with female dolls. Playing dress up with them, and I could just trot out a bunch of other what they would call tropes or stereotypes, and then we'd have to just make the concept of masculine so capacious that it can encompass every single male's view or every single male style of living. As long as he has a penis, we have to incorporate that into our new concept of masculinity, and this is the new masculinity for the 21st century. And if that's all that masculinity means, or if that's all that masculine means, then it's not very useful to anyone. I mean, it's just basically describing different ways that males live. And what's the point of calling it masculine? The question is, can there be a male who is not masculine in that sense? And there couldn't be. And then there are just various ways of cloaking preachiness. Like what I've seen a lot is old white men, old white out of shape men who are telling young in shape males who are still for whom a certain stereotypical masculine lifestyle appeals, that old white out of shape male is telling them that they shouldn't live that way because hey, there's this other way of living, and apparently that other way of living, if you incorporate that into your lifestyle, you'll be happier, something like that, right? Like that's generally how it goes. And everybody will be happier, not just you, but everybody. So we want to make everybody happier. So let's all cry it out, sort of like that. And that's how that's really the underlying message, but it's cloaked in academic language. So it sounds respectable, but it's not. It's just sloppy thinking, a lot of sloppy thinking. They all should do a critical thinking course in philosophy departments. So what am I getting at? What they're doing is they're taking a descriptive notion and trying to make it normative. In other words, they're saying, here's what these males are like. You should be this way. And of course, it just waters it down completely because you can be whatever you like. As a male, as a human being with a penis, you have the right to live however you like, and that's considered to be masculine by virtue of the fact that you have a penis. The more males who share in that, and the more lovey-dovey emotions that come out of it, the better it is, right? The better it is. So that's the view. What they're missing is a normative view. So what most guys who write to me and what I'm interested in, and what all the guys who like the tens of thousands of guys who are looking for guidance in this area, what they're looking for, and most importantly, the guys who want to be attractive sexually to women, what they're interested in is what's the type of masculinity that would serve me best in getting the things that I want in my life, which include happiness, but also include sexual opportunities, and also include financial freedom, and include independence and self-esteem and all of these good things. So not just, hey, let's all hang out and feel good about, let's just feel good about the fact that we're not hurting anybody. Instead, what they want is like, hey, I have these goals and I'm going to strive to get these goals and I want to go and get them. And what's the concept of masculinity that would best serve me in those contexts? And There's not much guidance on that in the current world. I've looked everywhere. And the type of guidance that's out there is making that fundamental fallacy of confusing the descriptive with the normative. So I believe, and I think it's pretty clear, that in order to have a good normative concept of masculine, we have to look towards more empirically rigorous or just more rigorous historically, culturally, whatever, rigorous, like just think harder as well, critically rigorous, philosophically rigorous arguments about what masculinity should be. So there's one issue, so let me put it in a much simpler way. There's a question of what masculinity, what males are like, so what it is, what the current state of masculinity is, or what the males around this world are currently, what they are, okay, the is, okay, versus what they ought to be, what should they be in order to get the goals that they're looking for. Like, and foremost among them is very common. I mean, that's how I got started in this career. That's how hundreds of thousands of guys approach me and my work. And through my small network of dating coaches, like very close friends, we easily have millions of people on our databases who have been coming to look for us to ask for help in this area. Millions who are looking for help and guidance on what masculinity should be, how they should be, what they ought to be like in order to be more sexually attractive in the modern world, in order to be more independent in the modern world, in order to have more self-confidence in the modern world. So, you know, it's nice to say that there's a homosexual who likes to play with dolls and that he's male, and we need to incorporate that somehow into masculinity. That's not going to be very helpful to the average 30-year-old male man who is looking to be more sexually attractive to women, you know, in the modern world, in a first world country, or anywhere really, it doesn't matter if it's first or whatever world, in attracting women, if you tell them to wear dresses and play with dolls and play dress up with them. It doesn't help him at all. And if you want to go politically correct, because that's where most of this bullshit that I've read is going, or is, it's not helpful to people in reality. So let's face the reality. Let's face the fact that the way masculinity, the concept of masculinity in its normative sense of how ought I to be masculine in order to be sexually attractive to women, in order to be more self-confident. What is that notion? What is that concept? What is it? What does it mean? And how can I become it? Okay, that's the question. And you're not going to get that from what I've seen. You know, what I see on the internet is, and what I've read in the books written by these people, is old white men who are out of shape, and I don't get the feeling that they're killing it in their lives. It doesn't inspire me to watch that. Preaching from the lectern, views of politically correct bullshit new age views. And even nowadays, the New Age guys are not as prominent. Those are books that were published quite a while ago. Those are classics now, and they're classics for a good reason. There's value in the New Age material, but there's very little value in what I've seen of the academic material being taught now in various academic departments and universities. A lot of politically correct New Age bullshit that's being disseminated in places that are like in websites that have quite a bit of traffic for like. In sort of aggregation sites, like Art of Manliness, Ask Men, places like that, that have good stuff in it, but there's also bad stuff in it because it's uncritical in many places. And I've just seen a lot of bullshit. So, I started out 10 years ago figuring out dating, psychology, women, flirting, and then moving into a lot of research in relationships and working that out. And I found that the thread running through all of that, the problems, the greatest factor for success or failure is masculinity. So in the next video, the next episode, I'll address that, answering the question on masculinity. What is it and what should we do about it? Join the private Facebook group to ask more questions. Questions are the oxygen of this show. It depends on your question. So join the group. We approve requests every day. I'll see you in the group. Until then, man up.